I poisoned my sister's coffee that morning. Not with arsenic, but with the bitter truth she'd spent years burying under her perfect lies. She choked on it, her manicured nails clawing at the marble countertop of our childhood kitchen in Naperville, Illinois, eyes bulging like she'd finally seen the ghost of her own conscience. And as she gasped for air that wouldn't come easy, I leaned in close and whispered, "This is for Mom. You heartless bitch. Welcome to the family reunion from hell." It started 15 years ago, back when we were just Violet and Scarlett Harper, two sisters scraping by in the shadow of Dad's crumbling auto parts empire. He was the king of the Midwest Rust Belt, or so he thought. Harper Auto Supplies, a chain of warehouses from Chicago to Milwaukee that kept the gears of blue-collar America turning. But King's Fall, and ours tumbled hard when the '08 crash hit like a freight train. Factories shuttered, suppliers ghosted, and Dad drowned his regrets in wild turkey, leaving Mom to hold the ledger books with hands that shook from the stress. Scarlett was the golden child, 16 and already slinging charm like a debutante at a country club mixer.
Me?
I was 14, the quiet one with grease under my nails from helping Dad in the shop, dreaming of community college and a life that didn't smell like motor oil. The betrayal didn't come with fanfare. It slithered in quiet, on a rainy Tuesday in 2009. Mom had been up all night, crunching numbers, when she discovered the discrepancy. A cool $500,000 siphoned from the business account into offshore shells. Dad was apoplectic, convinced it was some rival poaching his clients, but Mom knew better. She traced it to the intern logs, Scarlett's summer gig at the front office, where she'd sweet-talked her way into handling petty cash. Not petty at all, as it turned out. Our big sis, the straight-A valedictorian, had been dipping into the till to fund her escape hatch, a trust fund for NYU, fake invoices padded with kickbacks from a shady supplier who'd promised her a modeling side hustle in the city. I found out by accident, rifling through her laundry basket for my missing hoodie. Tucked in the toe of her Ugg boot was a crumpled receipt for a wire transfer, destination, Cayman Islands. My stomach dropped like a busted transmission. Scarlett? The one who'd braid my hair and promise we'd conquer the world together? I confronted her that night in her room. Posters of Audrey Hepburn staring down like judgmental angels. "It's not stealing, Vi," she hissed, eyes darting to the door. "Dad's empire is a sinking ship. I'm saving us, getting out, pulling you with me later. This is for family."
Lies.
All of it. But I was 14, loyal to a fault, and when the auditors came calling 6 months later, triggered by Mom's anonymous tip to the IRS, I stepped up. Told them it was me, the dumb kid who'd accidentally routed payments wrong while covering shifts. Juvenile record sealed, probation, and a black mark that killed my scholarship dreams. Scarlett hugged me tight at the courthouse, tears streaming, whispering, "You're the hero, sis. I'll make it up to you." Mom bought it hook, line, and sinker, blamed herself for not watching me closer, until the cancer diagnosis hit like a sucker punch. Stage 4. Aggressive, the kind that eats you from the inside out. She withered in 6 months, convinced her failure as a mother had driven me to crime. Scarlett played the grieving daughter to perfection, nursing her through chemo while I worked double shifts at the shop to pay the medical bills. Dad never recovered. The scandal tanked Harper Auto. Creditors circled like vultures, forcing a fire sale that left us with the Naperville house and a mountain of debt. Scarlett bolted for New York the day after the funeral, armed with her clean transcript and a fabricated backstory of family tragedy. "I'll send money," she vowed, kissing my cheek. "You're the rock, Vi. Hold down the fort." The checks came sporadic at first, grand gestures from her internship at a boutique PR firm, then dried up entirely when she landed the big fish, marrying into the Vanderbilt old money crowd, or at least their watered-down Midwest equivalent, the Langfords of Lake Forest. Tech heirs with a software empire that made Dad's scrap heaps look like penny ante-poker. I stayed behind, grinding through Joliet Junior College with night classes, then clawing my way into a claims adjuster gig at State Farm in Chicago. It was steady, soul-crushing work, appraising flood damage in basements, denying payouts to folks who'd lost everything in a tornado. Irony? The job taught me how to spot fraud a mile away. Every falsified receipt, every exaggerated loss, it all screamed Scarlett's playbook. I drive home to the empty house, Dad's liver finally giving out from the booze in 2015, leaving me alone with echoes and a deed to a property worth jack in a down market. But I kept tabs. Social media stalking turned into PI hires on the cheap. Divorce records from her first Langford hubby, a coke-fueled flameout, then the glow-up with Preston Ellis, venture capitalist extraordinaire, daddy to their twin boys, and a prenup that locked her into luxury condos on the Gold Coast. By 2023, Scarlett was untouchable. Board seats at women's empowerment nonprofits, Instagram reels of galas where she posed with senators, captioning it all from rust to riches girl boss. Dad's old illness had mellowed into Parkinson's, a shaky shell in a memory care facility up in Evanston, babbling about the good old days when he'd bounce us on his knee. I visited weekly, feeding him pureed peas and stories of my promotion that never came. But the real hook? The will. Dad, in one of his lucid spells, redrafted it last year. Everything to me. The house, the residual patents from his shop days, a nest egg scraped from selling his vintage Mustang. For the one who stayed, Vi, he slurred, signing with a tremor. Scarlett's got her palaces. You deserve the heart. She found out through the grapevine, her concerned lawyer buddy at the nursing home. And that's when the wolves howled. Phone calls turned venomous. How could you, Vi? After everything I did for us. As if her hush money absolved the theft that orphaned our family. Then the visits. Manicured claws on my arm, crocodile tears over coffee. Dad's not right in the head. That will? Coerced. I'll contest it, for his sake. Bullshit. She wanted it all, the symbolic crown to polish her victim narrative. The final straw? Her petition to the courts, filed under elder abuse, claiming I'd manipulated the Parkinson's-riddled old man into disinheriting his real daughter. Evidence? Doctored emails from a burner account, timestamps fudged to look like I'd threatened him. The judge, a Langford donor, granted temporary conservatorship to her. Overnight, I was locked out of the facility, the house liens piling up from her protective filings. That's when the smile cracked my face, cold and inevitable as a Chicago winter. Revenge isn't a sprint, it's a demolition derby, and I'd been tuning my engine for years. I had the receipts, literal and figurative. The offshore trails, the witness statements from the old supplier, now sober, chatty in a halfway house, even Mom's hidden diary, unearthed from the attic crawlspace during a flood cleanup. Pages yellowed with chemo scribbles. Scarlett's secret. Vi took the blame. My girl, my burden. It wasn't enough for court, not without a miracle, but it was dynamite for the court of public opinion. And in America, baby, that's where the real trials happen. I started small. Anonymous tips to the Chicago Tribune's investigative desk. Heiress's dirty roots, from embezzlement to elite weddings. They bit, running a teaser piece that had Scarlett's feed blowing up with side eyes from her step-forward sorority. She fired back on TikTok, a tearful monologue. Family greed tearing us apart. Pray for my dad. Views in the millions, donations pouring into her Alzheimer's advocacy pack. But I was just warming up. Hired a hacker kid from the South Side, ethical or close enough, for $5,000 to seed her digital empire with ghosts. Fake DMs surfacing from her modeling days, blurred pics with the supplier's alias. Not illegal, just suggestive. Her sponsors ghosted. Preston's board whispered divorce. The tension coiled like a spring in a rusted fender. I'd lie awake in the guest room she'd generously let me crash in after foreclosing on the family home, of course, listening to her heels click on the hardwood, plotting her next calm move. She flipped alliances like a politician at a fundraiser, cozying up to Dad's nurses for abuse affidavits one week, then bribing the facility director for exclusive visits the next. Controversial? Hell yes. She'd parade the twins through the lobby, cooing about Grandpa's legacy, while slipping him sedatives to keep him foggy. I caught her once, syringe glinting under the fluorescent buzz. For his tremors, Vi. Don't be paranoid. But her eyes? Pure predator. The climax brewed over Thanksgiving, irony's favorite holiday. Preston was in Dubai schmoozing sheiks, leaving Scarlett to host the reconciliation dinner at their Lakeview penthouse. Catered spread from Gibson's Steakhouse, crystal flutes bubbling with veuve. Dad, wheeled in like a prop, mumbled through the turkey, eyes lighting up at the sight of us together. "My girls," he wheezed. Scarlett preened, toasting to forgiveness and family first. I raised my glass, smile sharp as shattered glass, to truths long buried. That's when I dropped the bomb. Not with screams, but with the diary, slid across the linen like a dealer flipping cards. Mom's words, in her looping script, the theft, the frame, the guilt that fueled her cancer. Scarlett's face drained to ash, fork clattering. "Fabrication," she spat, but Dad's tremors stilled, his gaze sharpening like he'd woken from a coma. I let the silence stretch, then hit play on my phone. Audio from the supplier, gravel voice confession tying her to the wires. The twins whimpered from the playroom monitor. A nurse hovered awkwardly in the hall. "You think this ends it?" Scarlett lunged, voice a whip crack. "I'll bury you in lawyers." Preston's got senators on speed dial. But the flip came swift, her hand on Dad's, voice syrupy. "Daddy, she's lying. Remember how she always resented me." Gaslighting gold. Dad's eyes darted, confusion warring with recall. I could have ended it there, called the cops on the sedatives, watched her empire crumble in cuffs. But revenge? It's messier than that. I chose the gray zone, the American way. Leak it all to the press, livestream the diary scanned on a throwaway X account. Harper Heist trended by midnight, pitting betrayed little sis against ambitious survivor mom. Comment sections erupted, half crowning me the underdog avenger, half torching me for airing dirty laundry and traumatizing the kids. She countered vicious, a smear campaign via her network, painting me as the unstable one with mental health issues from the family trauma. Doctored psych evals from a bot shrink, whispers to my boss at State Farm about ethics violations. I lost the job, the house auction loomed, but the tide turned when Dad, miracle of miracles, spoke up in a recorded video call, voice frail but firm. Scarlett took the money. Violet paid the price. Posted by his aide, it went viral, forcing the conservatorship review. Preston filed for separation that week, citing irreconcilable fraud. Scarlett's world imploded. Frozen assets, paparazzi swarms. The twins shuttled to his custody. Yet here's the rub, the part that splits the room. Was I the hero, or just another Harper grinding an axe? I'd shattered lives, sure, but in dragging her down, I'd poisoned the well for all of us. Dad's health tanked from the stress, landing him back in ICU with pneumonia. The twins? Innocent casualties, their mommy's empowerment facade cracked wide. And Scarlett? She didn't break clean. No, she flipped one last time, suicide note forged? Or real despair. The autopsy said pills and vodka, but the placement of that diary page beside her. Too neat, too theatrical. Cops called it self-inflicted. I called bullshit. Her final play, martyring herself to frame me as the destroyer, her PR machine spinning, pushed to the edge by sibling sabotage. The funeral was a circus, hypocrites in black, toasting her resilience. I stood at the back, rain lashing the cemetery like Judgment Day, Dad's hand cold in mine. He'd signed over everything in his last lucid hour. The house back, the patents revived by some startup vulture smelling blood. A win? Pyrrhic as hell. I sold it all, moved to a loft in Pilsen, started a fraud watch blog that pays the bills. But at night, the what-ifs gnaw. Did I push too far? Would Mom forgive the spectacle? And Dad, does he see the monster I became, or the daughter who finally balanced the scales? Twist of the knife. Turns out, Mom knew more than she wrote. A letter arrived postmarked from her old P.O. box, dated the week she died. Violet, if Scarlett's light blinds you, remember, her theft saved us from worse. Dad's partner was skimming millions. She caught him, stole back to expose it quietly. You took the fall to protect her secret. Forgive her, or become her. The partner? Long dead, but the files confirmed. Embezzlement ring, Scarlett's theft, a counter sting gone rogue. She wasn't the villain. She was the flawed fixer, and I, the unwitting patsy turned avenger in the dark. So who wins in this blood feud? No one in the end. America's great at spotlights, lousy at mercy. I smile at the mirror some days, wondering if the trick was on me all along. The letter burned a hole in my pocket for weeks, a paper grenade I'd lobbed into my own convictions. Pilsen suited me. The murals splashed across brick walls like defiant tattoos, to carry us humming with Spanglish banter that drowned out the Harper ghosts. I'd claimed a corner unit in a converted warehouse, 3rd floor, with fire escapes that overlooked freight trains rumbling south to the stockyards. Rent was a steal, neighbors kept to themselves, and the corner bodega stocked Dad's favorite black licorice, a ritual I'd cling to like a lifeline. Mornings, I'd brew Folgers strong enough to strip paint, scroll my blog's comments over toast. Violet's a badass, expose more snakes, clashing with this chick's toxic, family's off limits. Polarized just like I wanted. Or thought I did. Fraudwatchvi.com was my phoenix. Tips from whistleblowers, deep dives on Ponzi schemes preying on Rust Belt retirees. It paid sporadic, enough for takeout from our churros and the occasional Cubs game ticket, screaming myself hoarse as they choked another lead. But the ad revenue spiked after the Harper heist fallout, sponsors from cybersecurity firms, even a true crime podcast sniffing for my story. I turned most down, didn't need the spotlight-turning stalker, but one gig stuck, consulting for documentaries on white-collar sins. Your angle's gold, the producer gushed over Zoom, her bleach-blonde bob nodding like a dashboard doll. Betrayed sis turns tables, it's catnip for Netflix. I flew to LA for the pitch, economy on Southwest, nursing a ginger ale against the turbulence. LAX hit like a fever dream. Palm trees mocking the Midwest chill, influencers and athleisure snapping selfies at baggage claim. The meeting was in Silver Lake, a bungalow with exposed beams and a pitcher of green juice that tasted like lawn clippings. They loved the hooks, the coffee truth bomb, the diary drop, but balked at the twist. Mom's letter? Softens Scarlett too much. Audiences want villains, not nuance. I pushed back, voice steady. That's the point. No one's pure evil. Makes it real. They bought it, greenlit a pilot, and suddenly I had a publicist, a stylist, and a nagging itch that fame's just another con. Back in Chicago, the high faded fast. Dad stabilized, antibiotics and a DNR tattooed on his chart, but the Parkinson's gnawed deeper, stealing his words until he communicated in blinks. 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for get me out of here. I'd will him to the facility's garden, chain-link views of Lake Michigan's slate-gray waves, reading aloud from my blog prints. Proud, he'd blink once slow. Guilt twisted like a wrench. Proud of the exposure, or the wreckage. Scarlett's death certificate arrived certified mail, cause acute barbiturate intoxication, intentional. No note, just that diary page bookmarked with a red ribbon, Mom's handwriting circled. My girls, bound by secrets. The Emmys report hinted at hesitation, partial digestion, like she'd second-guessed mid-swallow, or staged it for the headlines. Her orbit didn't dissolve clean. Preston scooped the twins, enrolling them in Swiss boarding schools. For stability, his lawyers cooed, but custody battles raged via TMZ leaks. Scarlett's empowerment PAC rebranded overnight to Legacy of Strength, funneling donations to anti-defamation suits against slanderous kin. Me, chief defendant. Subpoenas piled like snowdrifts. Defamation, emotional distress, even wrongful death from her estate executor, a shark from Kirkland and Ellis. I lawyered up on contingency, a pro bono firebrand from the ACLU, fresh off a Me Too win. This is David versus Goliath with stilettos, she grinned, filing countersuits for fraud and elder manipulation. The hearings dragged through spring into summer, Cook County Courthouse a pressure cooker of fluorescent hum and coffee breath. Scarlett's ghost loomed in depositions, her old college roommate testifying to Violet's jealousy, voice quavering for the camera crews outside. I took the stand in June, humidity frizzing my bob, swearing on a Bible that felt heavier than lead. She stole our future, I said, voice cracking just enough for authenticity. I fixed it. Cross-exam shredded me. Fixed or destroyed. Your leaks cost her marriage, her career, pushed her over the edge. The jury pool, blue-collar mix of Uber drivers and teachers, shifted uncomfortably. Whispers of sisters stick together versus cheaters never prosper. Controversy crested at the evidentiary hearing. My hacker kid, now a full-time ally, coding from a Logan Square hackerspace, uncovered the flip. Scarlett's final email chain, timestamped 2 a.m. before the pills. To Preston, if I go, make it look like her fault. The diary planted. For the boys. A digital smoking gun, forwarded from her cloud backup. The courtroom gasped, my lawyer pounced, arguing insurance fraud on steroids, suicide staged as homicide by proxy to bleed me dry and martyr her to the masses. Judge, a grizzled vet with a Bears lanyard, called recess, reconvening to dismiss most counts, slapping sanctions on the state for bad faith litigation. Outside, the press scrum was biblical. Mics thrusting like bayonets, questions flying. Violet, do you regret it? I paused, rain starting to spit from a bruised purple sky. Regret the truth? Never. Regret the cost? Every damn day. It played on every loop, polarizing harder. Feminist blogs hailed my unflinching accountability, while family values outlets decried the feminine savagery. Sister Slayer trended, spawning memes of us as Wicked Witch versus Dorothy, twisted to fit agendas. Dad passed in August, quiet as a sigh, heart gave out during a nap. No fanfare. The funeral was small. Me, the ACLU shark, a handful of shop buddies from the old days. We buried him beside Mom in Queen of Heaven, granite headstone etched, loyal to the end. I sold the last Harper patent, a diagnostic tool for EV batteries, to a Tesla supplier, netting enough for a down payment on the Pilsen loft. Clean slate? Hardly. The docuseries wrapped filming in October, trailers dropping with my voiceover. Revenge isn't sweet, it's shrapnel. But the real twist uncoiled in November, post-election hangover, when half the country was still yelling at mirrors. A manila envelope, no return address, shoved under my door. Photos, grainy 8x10s from 2009. Scarlett and Mom, huddled in the kitchen pre-dawn, counting stacks of cash. The theft money. But wait, bundled with ledgers from Dad's partner, the skimmer. A note in Mom's hand, postscript to the diary. Vi, Scarlett didn't steal for greed. The partner threatened us, said he'd torch the warehouses if we snitched. She took the fall money to bait him, exposed the ring. I covered, told her to run. You stepping up? Saved her life. But the cancer? My fault for the stress. Forgive us both, or the cycle spins forever. Cycle? It slammed home like a rollback starter. Mom hadn't just known. She'd orchestrated the quiet counter. Scarlett's betrayal was a shield, my sacrifice the decoy. The partner? Busted in 2010 on unrelated RICO charges, but the files, buried in federal archives, confirmed the threats.
Idea banja Liechtenstein, dupla taflawa guardian angel.
The twins, now 8, reached out via Preston's supervised email, crayon-scrawled cards. Aunt Vi, Mom said you were brave but sad. We miss stories. Brave or sad? The line blurred. I debated leaking it, the ultimate flip, exonerating her in death, damning my own crusade as collateral carnage. Blog comments would erupt. Violet's the real villain, vindicated the thief, or noble lie, but truth wins. Instead, I burned the photos in a galvanized bucket on the fire escape, ashes scattering on the L tracks below. The docuseries aired Christmas week, ratings nuclear, ending on my silhouette against the Chicago skyline. In America, family's the ultimate hustle. Win or lose, you pay the vig. Ending happy? Tragic? Pick your poison. I chose neither. Started volunteering at a fraud victim support group in Bridgeport, hearing echoes of my own rage in strangers' tales. The loft's walls filled with Polaroids, Dad's grin from 95, Mom's laugh lines, Scarlet mid-twirl at prom. No more tricks. Just me, piecing the shards into something whole. Or close enough. Winter clamped Chicago like a vice. Lake effect snow piling drifts against my loft windows, muffling the city's growl to a hush. The support group met Tuesdays in a basement rec center off Halsted. Folding chairs in a circle, styrofoam cups of community instant, faces etched with the wear of bad bets. There was Carla, the nurse who'd lost her savings to a crypto scam run by her financial advisor nephew, Jamal, the vet stiffed on VA benefits by a predatory lender. I'd facilitate, passing the talking stick, a repurposed spark plug from Dad's shop, nodding as they unpacked the rage. It's not just the money, I'd say, voice low. It's the trust they torched. Mirrors every session. My story? I doled it out in drips, anonymized. Had a sister once. Thought she was the thief. Turns out we all were in a way. The docuseries crowned New Year's, Emmy buzz humming like a distant amp, Harper heist, blood, lies, and legacy, streamed to 20 million views. Critics split down the middle. Variety called it a razor-sharp dissection of American ambition, while the Trib grumbled, exploitative voyeurism dressed as justice. My inbox flooded. Interview requests from 60 Minutes, book deals from imprints chasing the next educated. I ghosted most, but accepted one, a TEDx Chicago slot in March, theme The Cost of Truth. Standing on that red circle under McCormick Place's glare, 500 suits and students staring, I gripped the podium like a lifeline. Revenge feels like reckoning. I began, slides flickering Mom's diary, Scarlett's obit clip. But it's a mirror. Shatters everything, reflects the cracks you ignored. Q&A turned rowdy. A law student grilled. Wasn't exposing her necessary? She deserved it. A therapist countered. At what price to the innocents? The father, the children? I smiled, that old Harper edge.
Both.
Neither. That's the debate. Post-talk, the green room buzzed with schmoozers, producers pitching spin-offs, a senator's aide pressing cards for advocacy alliances. But the real pull came from the back. A boy, gangly in a wolf's hoodie, clutching a sketchpad.
Antwi.
Theo Ellis, Scarlett's elder twin, voice cracking like thin ice. Preston had relented on contact after the series dropped. For closure, his email read. Theo and his brother, Finn, had watched from a hotel suite, Preston screening it like homework.
Mom.
She wasn't bad. Theo asked, her eyes, searching mine. I knelt level. Bad?
Nah.
Complicated. Like all of us. She fought for you guys, in her messed up way. He flipped the pad, a charcoal drawing, us three sisters ghosted over Dad's grave, hands linked in thorny vines. I get it now. The tricks. That cracked something in me, a fault line I'd patched with spite. Preston met us for coffee later, neutral ground, a Starbucks in Lincoln Park, tension thick as fog off the lake. He was polished erosion, salt and pepper at the temples, wedding ring swapped for a Rolex. The boys need roots, he said, stirring his flat white. Not this drama carousel. I nodded, no fight left. Send 'em for summers. I'll teach 'em shop class real skills, not algorithms. Deals struck, tentative as a truce in a blood feud. The twins arrived Memorial Day, backpacks stuffed with Marvel comics and questions that punch low. Why'd you hate Mom? Finn blurted over pizza at Lou Malnati's. I chewed slow, sauce dripping like accusations. Didn't hate.
Hurt.
Big difference. We rebuilt slow. Bike rides along the lakefront, stories of Scarlett's wild streak, sneaking out for midnight swims in Lake Michigan, blasting Fleetwood Mac from Dad's truck. They laughed, thawing. I glimpsed her in their mischief, the fixer spark. The estate settled in fits, her pack dissolved amid audits, assets liquidated to pay my legal fees, and a trust for the boys. I pocketed a sliver, enough to quit consulting gigs and go full-time on the blog. Expanded it. Podcasts with grifters turned gospel, toolkits for spotting red flags in family businesses. Sponsors rolled in ethical ones, like credit unions pushing financial lit for underserved hoods. By fall, Fraud Watch Vi hit 100K subs, a milestone party at the Loft with Carla and Jamal toasting with Malort shots, that wormwood bite chasing regrets. But peace? It's a myth in the Harper bloodline. The cycle spun back October, a certified letter from a Baton Rouge firm. Estate of Eleanor Harper. Unresolved claim.
Mom.
Turns out, her old P.O. box hid more, a safety deposit box in New Orleans joint with Scarlett, stuffed with bonds from the Countersting Hall. Untaxed, unclaimed, now mine by default. Value? 7 figures, ballooned by compound interest. The taxman cometh, but so did the ghosts. A cassette tape, Mom's voice frail post-chemo. Violet, if you're hearing this, Scarlett's gone. The money? Blood money from the ring. We used it to seed your future, scholarships, the shop revival. But the secret ate us. Scarlett wanted to tell you, after the partner's trial. I stopped her. Protect the baby, I said. Forgive, or burn it. Your call. Burn it? Tempting, a Viking funeral for the lies. But I wired it instead. Half to the twins' college funds, a quarter to Dad's old union for worker retraining, the rest seeding a non-profit, Harper Haven, fraud recovery grants for families like ours. Launch gala in November, Pilsen warehouse tricked out with string lights and food trucks slinging Italian beef. Theo emceed, 12 and poised, to Grandma and Mom, tricky but tough. The crowd, diverse as the city, from South Side activists to North Shore philanthropists, cheered, but the after-party whispers divided. Generous redemption versus guilt payout. Too little, too late. Climax of my reckoning hit Christmas Eve, snow globe perfect outside the loft. The twins crashed with me, Prestonov and Aspen with his new squeeze. We baked gingerbread, Scarlett's recipe, heavy on molasses, and strung popcorn for a Charlie Brown tree. Midway, doorbell. A courier, chilled to the bone. Package for Violet Harper, Harper Heist Star. Inside, a USB drive, labeled Final Flip. Plugged it in, heart hammering, Scarlett's voice, recorded post-divorce, pre-pills. Vi, if you're listening, I lost the plot. The money, the masks, it was to save us from him, the partner. But I flipped too hard, left you holding the bag. The will fight? Desperate grab for control. Don't avenge me. Live messy, like Mom taught. Love, Scar, your thief sis. Tears hit like a nor'easter, twins piling on with hugs that smelled of peppermint. Happy? In the wreckage, yeah, a bi-kid Christmas, toasting eggnog to flawed queens. Tragic? The empty chair at the table. Echoes of what-ifs. Debate rages in my head still. Was her suicide the ultimate con? Staging closure to free me? Or genuine break? My leaks the shove? No answers, just the American grind. Hustle, hurt, heal, repeat. New Year's dawn. I stood on the fire escape, skyline smudged in pink haze. The blog post queued. The trick's on us, closing the Harper ledger. Raw, unfiltered. The taped transcript, the bond's fate, a call to commenters. Your side. It dropped at midnight. Fireworks blooming over the loop. Comments cascaded, forgiveness anthems, betrayal ballads, the eternal split. I logged off, pulled the boys close on the couch, die hard flickering. Best revenge. Theo mumbled, eyelids heavy. I kissed his forehead.
This. Us.
Messy and real. In the end, no crowns, no thrones, just survivors, stitching scars into stories. That's the Harper way. Claim nothing, trick everything, smile through the shatter. And damn if it doesn't feel like winning.